Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council launch event. My name is Jay Reinstein. I'm the Assistant City Manager with the City of Fayetteville, and I will be your MC for this 5-hour event. Really not 5 hours. We're going to move through this quickly. What I would like to say is that the local Reentry Council's purpose is to coordinate resources in the community in an effort to provide assistance for returning citizens and their families that will help facilitate a better transition from incarceration back into society. The Reentry Council provides returning citizens with a comprehensive plan of services to assist with transition. Specifically, the local Reentry Council will identify service gaps, develop a network of reservice and service providers, develop a public education campaign to change public perception about returning citizens, and to identify potential funding to support local reentry initiatives. With that being said, I would now like to call up the Honorable Mayor, Mitch Colvin.
Thank you, Mr. Reinstein. He's our comedian at the City of Fayetteville with his 5-hour meeting. But good morning. Good morning. At this time, I would like to recognize all of our elected officials, if they could please stand at this time. I know we have Attorney General Josh Stein. The Governor's Office has representatives here. District Attorney Billy West, Judge Ms. Adams, Judge Honorable Gail Adams, County Commissioners Charles Evans and Glenn Adams, and any of my other colleagues from the Fayetteville City Council. Pleasure to be with you this morning. I'd like to thank the Fayetteville Police Department, which is led by our great chief, Gina, Hawkins, and every agency who has collaborated on the Reentry Council. As mayor, it's an exciting time. It's exciting to be launching the Reentry Council to give former inmates and offenders the opportunity to become productive members of our society. The Reentry Council will benefit Fayetteville because our community is always looking for ways to give people a second chance and a second opportunity in life. We have a good team with the right people in place to help others transition back into society, and because of that, we are so blessed and fortunate. And thank you for having me today. God bless.
I don't want to disappoint folks, but I won't have any jokes today. So I'd like to now call up the great Commissioner Glenn Adams with Cumberland County.
Good morning. And it is a pleasure to be here today and to first welcome all you all here on behalf of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, the over 365,000 citizens of this community, and recognize my wife, Superior Court Judge Gail Adams. And I think as the mayor was doing that, we do have our Clerk of Superior Court here, Ms. Lisa Scales, if you stand there. But you know, today, for me personally, I can't think of a better time than spring, and you see the spring colors I have on, and the start of Easter weekend to launch a program that helps men and women on the path to a new life. Spring is a time of rebirth and rebloom, and I believe this Reentry Council is doing the exact thing, giving men and women the opportunity to redirect their lives and to bloom into productive citizens in our community. So we are so thankful for the funding from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety to support the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council. And I do this on 2 occasions, one as a county commissioner, but also as a member of the council. And I hope you all look and see the mission of the council. And our mission is to empower, support, and encourage individuals with past criminal records and those reentering the community from incarceration by strengthening and utilizing resources. We seek to reduce the barriers, stigmas, and challenges that individuals face when transitioning home. But you know, that's only a small piece of the puzzle. This is a huge judicial system. We have to go back to the beginning of the arrests and those things that are happening in our community that put these individuals where they are. We have to think about the bail situation in Cumberland County and how in the state of North Carolina are we holding folk that should not be in there waiting for that. So there are a lot of work to be done. I also have to congratulate and thank my county commissioner, Charles Evans, who's been on the forefront of this for years in terms of came to the county to ask us to take off whether you've been convicted before you, on your application, before you even get an interview. Because that stigma on that application is weeded out by somebody who doesn't give somebody a chance. So, you know, and I'm gonna end with this because we got a lot of speakers. I've talked about this for the time that I've been on council, on the county commissioner. So we've got to quit operating in silos. It takes all of us, the Reentry Council, it takes Fresh Start, it takes this whole community coming together to make sure that every individual, I don't care what their past brings, but their future brings hope. And it's encouraging for us to be able to stand there and to provide that. So on this day, Reverend Gardner, because Reverend Gardner is the one, you know, if y'all get close to Reverend Gardner, he'll have you on this committee in a minute, because that's how I got on there. But he is a doer, and Lisa is a doer, and all of those that are on the council, I just want to say thank you, because I served with some wonderful people on that council. I'm there to help, but they do yeoman's work. So today, rebirth and rebloom. Thank you.
As Commissioner Adams did say, we do have a lot of speakers, 2 down and 34 to go. Just kidding. I'll tell you, it really is my honor to introduce our next guest, North Carolina's Attorney General, Josh Stein.
See, y'all know Jay as a comedian. I know him as Ken. He is the cousin to my sister-in-law, which I don't know what that makes you, but
Cousin-in-law.
Cousin-in-law. Well, I am excited to be here at the launch of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry. This is a positive development on an essential issue. In my 15 months as your Attorney General, I've learned that Fayetteville embraces innovation, whether it's working with us on the opioid epidemic and your LEAD initiative, or it's now this Reentry Council, and it's a pleasure, Mayor, to be with you in your fine city. Y'all are quick to roll up your sleeves because you want to help people lead healthier, safer, more self-directed lives, and that is something that I embrace. I love serving as your Attorney General because every day I get to go to work to try to help the people of North Carolina in a bunch of different ways, and one of which is protecting people from crime. The focus on reentry is an important aspect of fighting crime, because if we help people succeed in lives when they leave incarceration, they are more likely to lead a productive, happy life free of crime, and they're not recommitting offenses. 95% of people who are incarcerated today in North Carolina are going to get out. 95%. The question to us is, what kind of lives are they going to have? Are they going to have a life where they can actually achieve what it is that they want? What we all want, right? We all want to be happy, we want to be productive, we want to have family, friends, loved ones. Or are they going to have opportunities denied to them, making it that much more likely that they will commit additional crimes? People leaving incarceration, they make their own choices when they leave. But we as a community, we make our choices too. I believe that we should choose to do what we can to reduce the barriers to folks' successful reentry into society. I've got a buddy in Raleigh, Dennis Gaddy. He runs Community Success Initiative. And he says, if we make it hard for folks to do the right thing, we make it easy for them to do the wrong thing. We should be about making it easy for people to do the right thing. Too often, folks come out and they find door after door after door closed to them. Our job has to be to open those doors so that they can walk through and have a successful, happy life. Reentry process begins at incarceration. While they're in our jails and prisons, we need to help provide tools so that they can be successful when they get out. Whether it's job training to increase their employment prospects, health issues to address underlying mental health and addiction issues that affect so many people in our criminal justice system. reconnecting people with family and friends and community-based organizations so they have a network that can help support them when they get out. And then post-release, we have to be there too, and that's where the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Councils can come into play. Folks need help with housing. They need affordable transitional housing. They need transportation so they can get to work, so they can meet with their probation officer, so that they can get treatment. They need a job. Everybody needs a job so they can stand on their own 2 feet. And employers need to have an open mind about their entire pool of people looking for work. To achieve these worthy goals, the Department of Justice and I are pleased to participate in the governor's statewide Reentry Council Collaborative, and it's always a pleasure to be with my good friend, Chief Deputy Secretary of Public Safety, Reuben Young, who will be speaking shortly. This collaborative was formally launched last October, and we've been busy trying to put this mission, this charge to us, into effect. We believe that a statewide coordinated response is necessary to support the critical work of local reentry councils like here in Fayetteville and Cumberland County. The statewide Reentry Council has convened working groups in a host of different areas: housing, educational vocational training, employment, faith and community-based organizations, transportation, health and mental health, substance use issues, family reunification and support, legal and advocacy and communications. Each group is working independently to develop a set of recommendations to bring to the full council for its consideration, and they're moving full steam ahead. And each work group is important. I just want to say a word briefly about the last group, advocacy and communications. We know that removing stigma around folks leaving incarceration is important to help them succeed back in society. One advocate told me that people are not their worst moment. They should not be held to that standard for the rest of their lives. That's why we want to change our language around the justice-involved population and use words that are not stigmatizing. Over the next few months, we will get all these work groups to submit their reports. And one initiative that's coming up is the week of April 21 to 28 is statewide Reentry Week. And that's going to be an opportunity for us all to lift up the important work of the groups like Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry, and so that people have more familiarity with this important issue. We all need to dig into this work so that we can help people have their best shot at living full, healthy, happy, productive lives. Local initiatives like yours make a difference in the vitality, health, and safety of your community, and the state must be a cooperative assistant partner. I want my office at the Department of Justice to be an ally and resource to you all as you do this work. We will be visiting other reentry councils around the state, and as we learn good ideas, we'll be sure to bring them back to you all here in Fayetteville, and if there are things you want us to take around the state, we look forward to learning from you as well. By providing critical interventions and support, we can help many of our justice-involved population build the lives that they want and that they can avoid future trouble with the law. I want to thank you all for having me today. More importantly, I want to thank you for the work you're doing, congratulate you on launching this initiative, Jesse. District Attorney West, always a pleasure to see you as well. And North Carolina Department of Justice stands arm in arm with the people of Fayetteville and in Cumberland County in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney General. Really appreciate it. I was going to call you cuz, and I just thought that would not be appropriate, so I'm not going to do that. So now I'd like to introduce Mr. Darryl Childers, who is Policy Advisor for the Governor's Office. Mr. Childers, come on up.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I'm not sure which we are. I'm really excited to be here with you all back in Fayetteville. I lived here in Fayetteville for 2 years, so it's always great to be back. I'm going to try to be mindful of the time. Lisa presented at a Reentry Council meeting that we planned back in November, and I'll tell you more about it. But I was if you all have seen Showtime at the Apollo, I was a Sandman, and so I was keeping everybody on time. So I think she might be looking to pay me back on that. So I'll be mindful. But by my count, Commissioner Adams left a little bit of time, so I'll take his. So thank you for inviting me today, and thank you for your commitment to and passion for reentry. I'm here to share with you Governor Cooper's vision for reentry in North Carolina and to share a bit about the reentry items that we're working on to move forward in the partnership that we have with the Department of Public Safety, the AG's office, local reentry councils, and other stakeholders in the community. Governor Cooper has worked in and around North Carolina's criminal justice system for years, as a lawyer, as a lawmaker, an attorney general, and now as governor. He's committed to the ideal that justice is about more than incarceration. It's about restoration. Some of you have probably heard his vision for North Carolina. He wants our state to be healthier, better educated, and more prosperous so that every North Carolinian has a chance to live a more abundant and purposeful life. And that absolutely applies to formerly incarcerated people. Our state is a better and safer place when formerly incarcerated individuals can get a chance to lead a positive and purposeful life. And North Carolina is making some progress toward that goal. In August, Governor Cooper signed Senate Bill 445 into law, which helps nonviolent, formerly incarcerated individuals clean up their criminal records. It reduces the wait time to expunge certain charges and convictions, and it streamlines the process. Governor also signed a proclamation commemorating the new Raise the Age legislation. That ensures 16 and 17-year-olds with criminal histories go through the juvenile justice system rather than being tried as adults. This important change will give young people a chance to correct course and go on to succeed. But there's much more to do. We know that epidemic levels of substance misuse are affecting people and our economy across the board, and people leaving prison are no exception. Opioid drug overdoses are spiking, and more than 700,000 North Carolinians are estimated to have a substance use disorder. Many people in our criminal justice system are not getting the substance misuse treatment they need. And we need to close the healthcare coverage gap by accepting federal funds that will cover 500,000 more North Carolinians. This would allow many more justice-involved people suffering from this crisis to get the help that they really need. We also need to expand law enforcement assisted diversion programs like we see here in Fayetteville, so that more people can get the opportunity to turn things around and avoid incarceration to begin with. Since taking office, Governor Cooper has made it a priority to tackle these issues and others related to reentry. Last year, the governor tasked Secretary Hooks and Department of Public Safety with developing a reentry action plan for North Carolina that includes strategies for tackling many of the barriers that formerly incarcerated individuals face as they try to rebuild their lives. The development of this plan was a collaborative process, including Secretary Hooks' office, the Division of Adult Corrections and Juvenile Justice, in consultation with the governor's office and experts in the community. The purpose of the plan is to facilitate a better transition from incarceration or community supervision back into society by coordinating existing resources, identifying resource gaps, and advocating on behalf of individuals with criminal records. The State Reentry Council Collaborative that Attorney General Judge Stein already mentioned is an integral part of this work. One big part of that council is to support the work that you all are doing, the work that local reentry councils are doing across the state. It's made up of Department of Transportation representatives from the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Commerce, Community College System, and Administrative Office of the Courts, the Attorney General's Office, and stakeholders from various sectors like nonprofit entities, community-based service providers, faith-based organizations, and fair chance employers. It's a really exciting collaborative process that I think is really going to get a lot of good work done. And the governor is very engaged in this work. He provided remarks at both of the council's first two meetings, and he's encouraging his staff, me included, to act on many of the issues that the council and its work group have already identified. And to that point, and Attorney General Josh Stein already mentioned this, but Reentry Week is coming up. We're working with DPS and the Attorney General's office to plan a fantastic Reentry Week. Local reentry councils all across the state are planning events, and so I would encourage you all to find an event, attend, find some way to commemorate that week and raise awareness for reentry. Moving forward, the State Reentry Council Collaborative will continue to be a driving force behind items like Reentry Week, but will also tackle specific issues around reentry. some of the work groups that Attorney General Josh Stein already mentioned were housing, transportation, health, education, and vocational training, employment, and many other areas that are vital to a successful reentry. Local reentry councils, including you all here in Fayetteville, will be key partners in implementing any of the recommendations that come from this process. DPS's Office of Rehabilitative Services, Programs and Services is focused on developing, strengthening, and maintaining the skills, processes, and resources needed for sustainable local reentry councils to adapt and thrive in their communities. To support that work, and I mentioned it before, the Governor's Office worked with DPS to plan a one-day workshop for local reentry councils back in November. We met in Forsyth County. Over 70 representatives from all 14 local reentry councils had the opportunity to network, share challenges, successes, and receive tips from guest speakers on how to better serve justice-involved population. And we plan to follow up with a second meeting in the coming weeks. I say all this to illustrate that a key to the success of the Governor's reentry vision will lie in the success of local reentry councils across the state, including one right here in Cumberland County. I know that many of you have spent years working to help formerly incarcerated individuals successfully return to the community and become productive contributors to society. I want you to know that your governor is working alongside you. He is working to build on your accomplishments by developing and strengthening partnerships among state agencies, health and human services professionals, educators, our courts, faith-based organizations and nonprofits, and many other stakeholders to improve reentry in North Carolina. By working together to offer justice-involved individuals another chance, we can build a better North Carolina for everyone. Thank you.
About to call up Mr. Reuben Young to the podium here. This is a long title. The North Carolina Department Public Safety Interim Chief, Deputy Secretary, Division of Adult Correction and Juvenile Justice. Say that 3 times. Mr. Young, love you to come up.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Half of my speech involved the title that was just given, so it won't take me as long to share with you the well wishes for this launch, and I bring you greetings on behalf of Secretary Hooks. I want to begin my remarks by giving you some context, but also sharing with you some numbers that are very important, and then I will expound on that in just a few minutes. The Attorney General, who was kind enough to be here today and give his remarks, and I want to personally thank you for fighting the fight every day to make sure that the people of North Carolina are safe. The Attorney General alluded to the fact that 95% of those individuals that are incarcerated today will get out at some point. The average sentence length in North Carolina is short, somewhere between 3 to 5 years. The North Carolina Department or Division of Prisons on any given day has in excess of 36,000 inmates. We release almost more than 24,000 a year. That means that these individuals are going back into the communities that they have come from. So the pending question is, are they going back in the community better than when they entered the prison facilities? There are over 100,000 individuals under some form of community supervision, and the fastest growing segment of the population supervised in the community is the post-release population. And those individuals have recently been released from prison. As a former Superior Court judge, let me tell you that every day I get up, and I know the judges here get up, to make sure that the criminal justice system is not an oxymoron. I grew up as a person of faith, and my father was a minister. Now, I'll tell you, he taught me a lot. Some of it took, some of it didn't. But every day that I get up, it reminds me of what he taught me as I face the challenges that we have within our prison system. And I believe it's applicable to all of you. And that is, but for the grace of God. That is important, because just as we are here, and there are other people in other places that may not be living the kind of lives that we live, remember, but for the grace of God. In our department, in our division, we're trying to increase programming during the incarceration and increasing the pre-release planning and preparation at designated reentry prison facilities. If we don't return people back to society better than we found them, we have failed. The operative word is we. Working more closely with community corrections to have a warm handoff to supervision and utilizing the reentry programs is an important part of this success. If we are going to have a successful criminal justice system, then reentry has to be part of that. Folks, I'm not looking for new business. It would stand to reason that I'm also not looking for repeat business. And in order for that not to happen, we have to give folks an opportunity to live and excel in the communities that they return to. I'm going to conclude with a quote from George Washington Carver. You might be surprised to know it's not going to be about a peanut. The doctor once said, how far we go in life will depend on us being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, and tolerant of both the weak and the strong. Because at some point during the course of our lives, we will have been all of these. God bless you.
Thanks again. Now I'd like to call up Senior Resident Superior Court Judge Jim Ammons for the 12th Judicial District. He asked me not to read the entire title, but I felt obligated to read the title.
Thank you. I want to thank the Fayetteville-Cumberland County Reentry Council for inviting me to speak at this official launch of the council. I also want to thank all of the participants and the attendees for coming to this very important event today. Obviously, judges are a part of the criminal justice system, and we are directly affected by crime in our jobs. But we are also just regular folks with families that we love and want to protect. We have homes and other property we want to keep secure. We travel the streets and the highways and patronize businesses, and we want to be safe from harm when we do these things. And we want our families, our friends, and our fellow citizens to live in and work in a safe, friendly, prosperous community. I was asked today to give the view from the bench. Well, here it is in a nutshell. We judges see way too much crime. We see the cost and the consequences of crime on a daily basis. We see the shattered lives, the wasted potential, and the pain that very often will never go away. We see the cost of crime in dollars and cents, in human tears, and in wasted years of life. Over the last 37 years, I have served as a defense attorney, assistant district attorney, district court judge, and superior court judge. I have seen thousands of defendants come through the system, many of them multiple times. Unfortunately, I see defendants in court now as a superior court judge, charged with serious felonies, including murder, that I prosecuted 30 years ago for minor offenses. And I see defendants that I sat in judgment of as a district court judge 20 years ago, still committing crime. I told one defendant recently that his involvement in the criminal justice system had paralleled my career in the criminal justice system. He had arrests and convictions and periods of being on probation, periods of incarceration dating back to 1981 when I first became an attorney. We had seen each other many times in court and occasionally in the community. He, like so many of the defendants I see, had been caught in the revolving door of committing crime, being punished, and committing more crime. This cycle of crime should be unacceptable to us as a society. It should be unacceptable to us as a community. I know that some people will never be able to break out of this cycle. But we should strive to break this cycle for as many people as we can. And we should do this for two very important reasons. First, compassion for our fellow man. We as a society owe it to our fellow citizens to offer help, to offer a better way of living, to offer hope for a better future. It is the right thing to do. Second, the safety and security of all of us. You see, as the Secretary and the Attorney General said, I, like most other judges, know that almost everyone we sentence to prison will someday be entitled to be released and come back to our communities to live and work. If we can help those people to not reoffend, their lives will be more productive, our community will be safer, and all of our lives will be better. It is the smart thing to do. That is why I'm here today, and I'm praising the work of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council, Lisa Jane, the Executive Committee Chair, and everyone involved in Operation Ceasefire. Their work to identify offenders who are scheduled to be released from jail or prison, identify what they need to help them not reoffend, and then providing those resources to help them successfully reenter our community is vitally important to these men and women. It is also vitally important to all of us. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for caring.
We'd now like to call up our District Attorney, Billy West.
Good afternoon. I had a nice long speech planned, and I saw that Jay was going to be the MC, saw that Glenn was speaking first, and I had to scratch all that. I knew there wouldn't be time for any of it, but I did want to say a few things about the DA's office support of this reentry program. Folks ask me often, what do I or some of my assistant DAs like about our job or what they think about our job, and the first thing is that it's very challenging, but the answer I give often surprises people. I like helping people. And in many cases, that means helping victims of crime or helping families of a homicide victim, for example, get through the very difficult process that we have in the criminal justice system. But helping people can also mean what we're here for today, and that is helping those that have paid their debt. We're not talking about helping criminals. We're talking about people who were charged with a crime, they served the sentence, paid their debt to society, and are now ready to reenter into our society. And we've heard a lot of statistics, but a couple I haven't heard that I saw in preparation for this meeting today was that 1 out of 2 folks will reoffend within the first 3 years without resources. 2 out of 3 will reoffend within the first 5 years without resources. So this is important what we're here for today. It's an important process, and people often ask, why would someone get out of prison and then commit a crime the next day, the next week, the next month? And we see that a lot, unfortunately, at the courthouse. And it's because they go back to the same environment with the same people and go back to doing some of the things that they shouldn't do. And we need to help them try to change their lifestyle when they're reentering our society. So the DA's office is fully supportive of this program. We've worked with Pastor Gardner, we've worked with Lisa Jane before, and we know their passion for helping people, and we know we've got the right leaders in place. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the things that we're going to work with the Reentry Council on is our expungement clinic. Charles Evans, who's here with us today, came to me with that idea 2 years ago for helping people that could not afford to go through the expungement process on their own. We helped 150 people last year. Mayor Colvin's been involved, Representative Elmer Floyd, and this year, I can tell you we don't know the exact number, but it's going to be hundreds, not just 100 this time, and we're excited about that. So we offer that as a way to work with the council in the future. So thank you to Attorney General Stein and everybody being here, and thank you for supporting this very important program.
Real excited to get our next guest, our police chief, Gina Hawkins.
So first of all, thank you for this honor to be able to say a couple of words. And thank you for everyone else who have already said the amazing inspirational words. which is you all are amongst the leaders. We are amongst the leaders that have seen our community and our society deal with certain issues. I've been in law enforcement for 29 years, and I came up through the time where we thought we can arrest away the problem, and we can't. And the problem is us, basically. Many of you all know my message of Love One means that every one person has the ability to make a difference in someone else's life, some type of act. But for the grace of God, but for the grace of every single person in here, a decision, a mistake, got someone else in a situation that they have either had to serve time or answer the justice system. I've always believed in the justice system because I've always believed in people. It is such an honor to not only be a leader, but be a part of the people who first has the opportunity to have the first interaction with our community and our society. But also, even more, the words of saying you have an opportunity to make a difference. And then to believe that every member have the ability to believe and the opportunity to have a start, to be forgiven, to say, what can I do? The reentry program is just one element that the governor is going to be proud of for Fayetteville and Cumberland County to lead the way for the nation, not just the state. Lead the way for the nation to show what are we doing other than creating laws, other than committing time. What do we do holistically to make a difference in our community, whether it be the LEAD program, Operation Ceasefire, or the reentry program to heal us all as a whole, to make us essentially a safer community. So it's an honor to remember your words that are going out for everyone to have that option to be able to say, how can we help you get back involved in the community? Because you are essentially part of us. You are our community. So thank you again for this honor to say a few words for that. Thank you.
If you've been in Fayetteville for any time, you probably have been to or heard of Kinlaw Supermarket. I'd like to now ask Tommy Kinlaw to come up and say a few words.
This time of year, we see kids on a ball field, and inevitably, somebody's going to strike out. There's going to be one kid, however, that can hit the ball. He's going to hear the cheers of the crowd. He's going to get the applause of the people. It won't be just his grandparents and his mom and dad and his aunt. It'll be everybody, because he's a winner. But the next time he comes to bat, he may not hit the ball. He may strike out. The great hitters of our lives have done well to bat 500, 400, 300. Nobody hits 1,000%. I'm in that group, but I keep hitting. And I've been doing what I'm doing as a business partner with the reentry program for 20 years. I was doing it long before there was a name such as reentry. And I've got folks working for me right now that will put me in the category of one who has struck out, but I keep trying. I'll encourage you to continue to do what you're doing as a council, as a community. I was thoroughly excited when our governor kept pushing forward with what he's doing to give us a breath of fresh air. Our chief of police, our district attorney, our judge, every one of us that's involved create an atmosphere of caring that must be done. My granddaughter, who's a teacher in a Cumberland County school system, has breakfast with me every morning. At 6:15 last Tuesday morning, she was telling me about a child in her classroom who had spilled chocolate milk on his shirt. She said he was totally out of control, out of fear. She said, what on earth is wrong with the shirt that's got chocolate milk? We all spill things, son. He said, my mother will not like this. She will be extremely violent. As I was listening to that story, I could almost put a face on someone, if I was to live long enough, 71 now, I probably won't see that little first grader, but somebody will have to deal with him Social service dealt with him that day. That's a start for the little guy. He goes into a home like many kids go into. They don't make that choice. They just have to deal with it. And our system is full of it. I can take you to a small business on the corner of Plymouth Street and Sapona Road today. I can show you men and women who have been in the system we're talking about right now. And I could take as much time as you would allow me. Lisa Jane said, don't start it, and tell you story after story of people that I've touched through my faith, doing what Christ has told us all to do, to love our fellow man. Last Saturday, busy as we were, I had a lady who's afflicted with a title she uses very often called bipolar. It fits well. PMS, bad attitude, and I asked one of my reentry guys to take a portion of meat and put it on her table in another room to be wrapped. I can't work these people in the same room. That's a challenge. And she went off on him, exploded. She's 35, he's 56. He's just back from a 10-year inside looking out deal. And I have visited him the entire time he's been inside. When he came home, he had a nice furnished apartment. His probation officer said, I've never seen anything like it. He had cable TV. He had a cell phone. He had everything he needed, clothes, food, everything. And so people say, well, you're trying to be extra special to him. This is the third time I've done this for this individual. When she went off on him, he was so upset when he came back to my side of the work area. And he calls me Dad. He's called me Dad for 20 years. He said, Dad, I could almost go back to prison for what I just heard. And all this is on film. We have cameras that covers our entire work area except for the restrooms, of course. So we had witnesses. The threat she made could have brought her down to Mr. West's office to be dealt with next week or this week or some week. He would recognize her if I called her name. He would recognize him if I called her his name, but that's beside the point. That was just one day in my life with people. If you go into my business today, you won't recognize them. They don't have name tags that says I'm a convicted felon or I'm a former inmate or whatever. They're an employee. Most of them call me Dad. I can't change that because for most of them, I'm the only dad they know. That's horrific sometimes. And it scares me when I think August I'll be 72. I've been in a meat market for 55 years. And again, I could tell you a lot of stories. It all started when a young boy walked into my establishment one morning, and he stood like a soldier at attention. And he had on white pants and a white t-shirt and boots that I thought looked familiar. And I said, could I help you? It was on a Tuesday morning. I can see his face now. He said, my name is Jamal Key. I said, what can I do for you, brother? Healthy, strapping young fella. He said, someone told me if I could find Tommy Kinlaw in Fayetteville, North Carolina, that I could get help. I said, son, where did you come from? And who told you such a thing? He said, I don't remember who told me, but I came from Rikers Island Prison in the state of New York. I said, can you start to work tomorrow? He said, I can start right now. Right now. And he did. and I took him as far as I could take him. You can only go so far, and then they're out of reach. But let me warn you something, folks. By the authority of God's word, you take them as far as you can before you turn loose of them. And like the fellow who was involved in the incident Saturday, this is the third time we've been through this. I told him 13 years ago, the next time that Jim Ammons sees your face, you're going to disappear from around here. 12 years was the sentence. He stayed 10. But he's out now. He's completed his probation. He works every single day. He still calls me Dad. And by the grace of God, he will not return to a system that has to be in place for people just like him. 10 brothers, 1 sister, hard road. Could be a little boy who spilled chocolate milk sometime, and his mother had no compassion. But the teacher did. She took the shirt off the little first grader, she washed it, and she dried it, and she put it back on clean before he went home. Folks, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't think the system is against anybody. We know different. The outside folks have got to make a difference for the ones who are inside, or else it will not ever change. If you have time and you want to hear stories, I've got them. I don't always hit a home run. I don't always hit a home run. But I can promise you one thing, as long as there's breath in this old meat head, I'm going to keep swinging.
Very powerful words from Mr. Kinlaw. I was relieved when he mentioned the filming that goes on in his restaurant. It is not in the bathrooms. All right. So now I'd like to have Lisa Jane, the chair of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Executive Committee, join us.
Good afternoon. I think we're past noon, so I can say good afternoon. Well, they say when you plan an event, you should over-invite because only about a third usually show up. But it looks like you all came, and it looks like you brought a third of the community with you. Thank you, and thank you for you guys over there. I'd also like to thank Randy Hume, who is hosting us today. Where's Randy? Randy, raise your hand. There he is. Randy has a beautiful new building, one of the city of Fayetteville's newest gorgeous buildings. Thank you, Randy, for hosting us. He is also on our executive committee, so he also serves too. Would the other members of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council please stand up or raise your hand? Stand up if you're seated and raise your hand. Thank you. These folks have name badges on today, so if you have any questions after we're done, just seek one of them out. They should be able to answer your questions. I want to thank all the speakers that came today. Although you all had different speeches, the underlying message was the same. It's time for former offenders to get the assistance they need here in our community. Let me stress the word former when talking about assistance for offenders. The council assists those with a criminal past, not those currently engaging in a criminal career. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about careers, starting with the letter C. About 30 years ago, I was a Fayetteville cop, walking down here in downtown Fayetteville for a while. Through life choices, I am now a coordinator. So my job title, my career, is a coordinator for Operation Ceasefire with the same police department. In case you haven't met him yet, let me introduce you to Jesse Garner. About 30 years ago, Jesse Garner was also walking the streets of downtown Fayetteville. His career, his job description was a criminal. Through life choices, that career is now behind him, and he too is a coordinator. coordinator for the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council. Cop and criminal, now coordinators, working side by side. Jesse is a former offender. I heard thank you. I heard this recently, and some of the other speakers have already touched on it. There has never been, I don't believe, a successful person that hasn't been given at least one second chance in their lifetime. 3 years ago this month, many of you were at our inaugural Reentry Council meeting at Kiwanis Rec Center. That meeting took place a few months after Jesse Gardner asked myself, Darvin Jones of Cape Fear Valley, and Michael Westray, former offender specialist with NC Works, to come alongside him and form this council. For Jesse, it was time. We knew state funding was available for other councils, and we thought maybe if we organized, they would look at Fayetteville-Cumberland for funding. Here we are today, 3 years strong, pulling together many in our community who've been assisting former offenders for many years. We have numerous departments and agencies represented on our council, but if you're here today and are not under the umbrella of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council, we could use your support. We have a common goal, we all have a common goal, and we are stronger together. In the room behind you, well, you guys, we have tables set up for each of our subcommittees. We have employment, education, housing, transportation, family support, healthcare, and sustainability. If you're not involved, I ask you to start today. Please sign up your agency to serve on one of our subcommittees. There are people waiting at those tables for you and will assist you if you have any questions. If you're here and you're a former offender and in need of assistance today, please visit Edward Curry, our case manager for the Reentry Council. His table is right inside the doorway. I would also like you to attend our council meetings. They take place the last Thursday of every month from 1 to 2 p.m., and you can't say you couldn't find it because those two are in that room right behind you. Our next council meeting is April the 26th. As mentioned earlier, the last week of April is set aside as National Reentry Week. On April 27th, our council is hosting our first Reentry Resource Fair. The location is Smith Rec Center, located on Slater Avenue, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're a resource and you can hear my voice, please grab one of our Resource Fair registrations that are on the sign-in desk where you came in. Fill it out. You can fill it out and leave it for me today, or you can fill it out and send it in to me. Lastly, I would like to thank the North Carolina Department of Public Safety for entrusting the Fayetteville-Cumberland Reentry Council with funds to assist former offenders here in Cumberland County. Knowing that it won't last forever, I'm hoping the city and county folks that are here will be busting feet to our sustainability table. And one other thing, we do have cake in that room. After you go through the subcommittee tables, there's cake and there's also lunch for you. Drinks are back there too. Now I would like to invite Jesse Garner to please come up, my fellow coordinator, to bless our food. In case you didn't know this, Jesse is also the pastor of Open Arms Community Church.
Wow. Thank you. One of the themes that I've heard today that's prevalent, that's running through this great occasion, is about community. And I had prepared a half-hour speech. But just for the sake of information, being a formerly incarcerated individual, I've experienced firsthand what it feels like to return to your community, to face barriers that individuals are faced with, all these uncertainties. Barriers such as housing, lack of job, education, family support, health and wellness. All these things are great, and while they are legitimate and valuable barriers, there's a greater barrier that us formerly incarcerated individuals are faced with. And that's returning back into your community when your community don't want you there. You don't audibly say you don't want us here, but you show us that you don't when you don't utilize the God-given resources that you have that can help us to become those tax-paying, productive citizens within our community. Today, Cumberland County, Fayetteville City, you have spoken volumes. You have shown us that you want us here, and you're going to do everything you can to assist us, to make us become that person, where that we too can become tax-paying, productive citizens within our community. So from a very personal perspective, I thank you. I thank DPS, Governor, Attorney General, Action Pathways for being our IA. I thank you, community, for coming on board. This is personal. So I applaud you, community, today, Fayetteville-Cumberland County. Let us bless our food. Father, we do give you praise. We thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for what you want to do. We thank you for the bread, for the grain, for the meat, for the vegetables, Lord God, that you have so abundantly provided. And we just pray, dear Lord, that we utilize these resources to strengthen our body so that we can accomplish your purpose that you have for your people in and through us. Just bless this food now, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen.
All right, I'd like to give special thanks to our guest speakers today, to the folks that have come out. We also had some really generous folks in the community. John Elkins with Jason's Deli, they gave us a huge discount on the food you are about to eat. Lewis Leak of Carolina Treatment Center made a nice donation to help offset the costs. Catherine Toe, Joseph and Tamika Newman, and Reverend Garner of Open Arms Community Church. Michelle Ford of Kingdom Impact Global Ministries, and finally Pepsi Bottling. Again, special thanks to Randy Hume, the dedication of this beautiful facility. And finally, the words that have really resonated with me from Secretary Young. I keep thinking, but for the grace of God. But for the grace of God. Thank you all very much. Make sure you get some food, cake, and there's some tables in there to learn more about the programs we're offering. Thank you all very much.